Hello, hello, hello. How are we doing out there? Can I get a round of applause if you can hear me? All right. I just wanted to make sure that you're paying attention to me and not your food. In fact, if you're eating already before I bless, that's just wrong. I was supposed to bless. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, welcome to our 40th year anniversary. Can we get a round for that? 40 years. So if this is your first time, we welcome you. If you're a longtime supporter, we welcome you. We're just glad each and every one of you are here to celebrate this occasion with us. Do want to take a quick moment and recognize some of our sponsors that have made this evening possible. So I don't know if we can pop them up on the screen. Some of our sponsors to thank. Look at that list. Can we get a round of applause for those? Awesome. So listen, we want you to enjoy your food. I just want to bless it, and then we're going to continue with our evening. While you're eating, we're going to have a video play. Do want you to take a peek at that. It'll give a little bit of who we are, and then we're going to celebrate and unveil more of who we are as the evening goes on. Is that all right? Okay, so I want to get down, let you get your grub on. I'm sorry, Dick, that means eat. I always got to translate hood talk to him. Let me bless our food. Lord, thank you for this evening. Thank you for the safety that has brought each and every person out. Bless the food to the nourishment of our bodies. Let us just have an enjoyable, incredible evening celebrating a wonderful program that's been transforming lives for 4 decades. So we thank you for this time, and we pray this in Christ's name, amen. All right, now you can eat. Dick, grub.
Denver. Meet Joe. Joe's dad is incarcerated. He wants to graduate, but he's lived with 3 different families and attended 2 schools this year. He's flunking. Meet Janie. She's 15 years old. She's the oldest in a family of 12. She didn't sleep last night because she was protecting her younger siblings from her mom's boyfriend. Yep, you read that right, protecting. She wants to do well in school, but the stress from home is more than she can take. There are 60,000 kids in Denver public schools who know what at-risk means. At-risk isn't a land far, far away. It's here. It's now. It affects you and me. When Colorado Uplift shows up, things start to change. Colorado Uplift is the most comprehensive, out-of-the-box, full-time, non-stop, relationship-based solution to the needs of kids, and it's changing lives. Imagine teams of full-time, ethnically diverse staff who pour into students' lives 24/7. Imagine a bunch of vans picking up, dropping off, running kids all over the place, developing life-changing relationships. And imagine that's happening all over Denver. Imagine in-school accredited classes that teach character qualities, life skills, leadership development. Imagine high school kids giving back, mentoring younger kids, teaching and sharing what they've learned. Imagine the sense of fulfillment and security that comes from one significant, caring adult relationship that goes far beyond the classroom. Year after year, grade to grade. And then imagine one kid graduating, then another, and another, and a whole bunch of kids. imagine one kid impacting one family, one community, and a whole city. Do you know what that means? Imagine. That's what Colorado Uplift does.
Was that cool? Check. Oh, there we go. All right. Was that cool? Did you get that? Now, the video said that we're working with kids all over the city of Denver, but we're also doing it in Aurora, Westminster. Come on, let's hear it. We're working, and so, think about these numbers. $2 million over a lifetime for a dropout versus $1,000 a year to mentor a kid. Isn't that better? 1,000 versus 2 million. That's what we do. And 90% of those kids that are in Uplift graduate. And 85% of those guys go on to some kind of post-secondary opportunity. And so we're putting in work, you guys. And it's changing because I'm sitting here as a live breathing, I think I'm breathing, a product of the program. I started in Colorado Uplift when I was in high school, and I'm still hanging out with them. What is that? So either they're doing some good stuff, or they just can't get rid of me. But I want to introduce to the stage somebody else who Uplift has had an impact in their life over a little while, and he can kind of share his story, his impact, and that kind of thing. I do want to say that I knew him when he was in high school, and he was super fast, so he got the nickname of Bullet. Bullet, I'm serious, that's his nickname, because he's super fast. So I'm going to see how fast he can get to the stage, but would you guys welcome Kevin Wilson?
Thank you, brother.
I need you to go work the sound.
Behold, how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard that ran down to the skirts of his garment. As the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion, for there Lord commanded life and blessings forever. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Colorado Uplift's 40th anniversary. Can we give them another round of applause? And we all know we're going to be clapping throughout the night because it's a beautiful thing that we have a program that has been around so long, supporting, mentoring lives. I stand in front of you as a person that has been influenced and impacted by Colorado Uplift. I am a proud graduate of Manual High School 1993 class, and that is where I met, yes, and that is where I was very fortunate and blessed to have been introduced to some great people. So a little bit about me. I am a person that was raised by their 70-plus-year-old grandmother who worked until she was 83 years old. I was in a foster home from 3 months to 5 years old. I lived with my mother for a short time and then went to live with my grandmother. I met my father for the first time at 7, only seen him a couple of times, and then he was incarcerated for 30 years. My mother, who was only 15 years old when she had me, was dealing and battling her own issues, and so she was in and out of my life, in the streets, in and out of prison. And so it was a struggle, and honestly, I never thought that I was at risk. I was just trying to survive, and my grandmother was doing everything that she possibly could to help me. So being at Manual High School, when this program surfaces up, I'm actually one of the last people out of my friend group to even get on board because I kind of got some trust issues with people and I just wasn't sure what was going on. I didn't know what the benefit would be for me to get involved with this group. But I listened to my friends and I'm paying attention. And you find out that in order to be in Colorado Uplift, you don't have to test into it. You don't have to have a high GPA. You don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the fastest. You don't have to be the strongest. You just have to be willing to try something a little different, right? And so after hearing my friends talk about Colorado Uplift, I finally decided my senior year, second semester, that I wanted to get involved in Colorado Uplift. And yes, I've seen Vic, I've seen Mike, I've seen Salt and Marcy throughout the school, and we've talked here or there, but I really hadn't invested or got involved until finally it was like, let me give this a try. And so through that, now I can't remember the whole curriculum because I told you I graduated in 1993, right? And so I'm coming up on 30 years out, so I don't remember all that we were doing in there, but I'll tell you what I do remember. I remember when we walked up the street to Columbine Elementary and we were reading to the students. We were reading to the students. And it felt so good to be doing something positive, right? I just couldn't believe I was doing that, right? But even past that, when I think about the impact, I was talking to Vic just a little while ago outside. I said, Vic, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I can't tell you about all of this, the classroom stuff. But I can tell you what it was like after I graduated from high school and the relationships that came after. So Salt and Marcy, I'm not sure where they are in here, right? But I'm going to tell you, that was a powerful relationship for me that I've had ever since. That they became my surrogate parents, never asked anything of me other than sometimes house sit, and that's many years ago, right? But that relationship and how I learned how to be a father, like a good father I've been told until my daughters get mad at me, but that's another story, you know? But then to see their connection they've made with people, they continue to make with people. I had an opportunity to watch the relationships that Vic has made with people, right? We were talking about my daughter, my youngest daughter, who she was able to participate in Colorado Uplift at East, which I said I would say this, she's a little upset that it's not at East anymore, right? Her experience was through the pandemic, but she still does some other things in the summer with the Colorado Uplift. But she said, Dad, do you know somebody named Vic? I said, yeah, I know Vic. She's like, yeah, he sees me on the Zoom, and he says, what's your name? She says, Kiara Wilson, and he looks at me and says, oh, you're Bullet's daughter. And everybody's like, Bullet, who's that? So anyway, she's like, Dad, it's kind of embarrassing. I'm like, sorry, you know, it is what it is, right? And then I have a 26-year-old daughter, just turned 26 yesterday, right? And she was a part of Colorado Uplift at East. And, you know, I've talked to her over years, and this is what I love about the program, right? As parents, we're talking to our children about making good choices, what you need to do in the world, right? And sometimes this falls on deaf ears because they hear it so much. But when you have a program that's supporting students and looking out for their best interests, it helps when somebody else is talking to your children about what it means to be good citizens, right? I talked to my daughter about being humble. Now, when I first started, when I first started, I had to go read a book somewhere. For her, she got a chance to go to Tijuana and help build houses. Now, how humbling is that for a student to get that experience, right? And that's what you get through the program. And so again, I know I've talked long enough already. I'm happy to say that I started out one way. I'm now an administrator at Montbello High School. What I'm excited about is that, yes, I'm alumni to the program. Yes, I'm a parent to the program. And as I've talked to some people, I hope to be the person that says, let's get over here in Montbello High School and make it happen, right? Because I know my students need that. I'll leave you all with this. Colorado Uplift had came into this in Colorado and into the schools for a reason. And though sometimes that interaction with students may have been for a season, but the influence and impact has been for a lifetime. So I thank you all. Thank you very much. Mike Riley, shout out to you as well. Those are some people I know. Sorry, I got to tell this story. Sorry. This is a great story. Let me tell you what Mike did, because I've learned from him. Long story short, after I graduated from high school, went to a whole nother college, Mike Riley popped up at this college with 3 kids from my neighborhood who I didn't even know how they were going to get to that college. And we're all the way up in Rangeley, Colorado. I remember Mike did that for some students just to make sure they got to where they needed to be. So when that opportunity came around for me, I thought about my friends, I thought about Mike, and said, if he can do it, I'm going to make sure I get a student where they need to be. So again, lifelong impact, influence. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Kevin Wilson, AKA Bullet, fastest kid in the school, slow to get him off stage. No, I really appreciate him saying about his daughters who used to be part of our program, students, and you see the generational impact. And I've had a chance to have my kids go through Uplift as students, and in fact, 2 of them are here, the good-looking ones that look like me. Yeah, so it's good to have that kind of impact. And you know, he talked about Mike Riley, and Mike Riley was the first staff member with Colorado Uplift, and I was one of the first students back when it first got started as a jobs program. But I digress, because I'm going to let Mike tell the story. So if you could direct your eyes at the video, he's going to walk us through the generations of Colorado Uplift.
My name is Mike Riley. I've been with Colorado Uplift for 40 years. Responded to an invitation to work with young people in the inner city. But I met Kent Hutchison, who had assembled a group of people. I think Dr. Williams from the Inner City Health Center and Ted Travis, Neighborhood Ministries, and some other people. And they were going to do a job training program that summer. They were going to be working with students from Manual High School. The project was called Getting It All Together at that time, and I got excited and decided to get involved. Kent had been working overseas in the Philippines, so they were working with university students and really had a tremendous impact. So when he came back to the United States after 12 years, in 1982, he wanted to do something here. He worked with third world poverty, and even though the physical poverty wasn't quite the same, the psychological poverty was the same. The brokenness was real, and that they needed leadership and stuff like that in the community to work with youth. And so he got involved in a program, and it was called Steps to Eliminate Poverty. So he came to Denver to kind of build something like that here. He looked up some of his old high school friends. He played football. He actually won the Golden Helmet Award, which is kind of like a high school version of the Heisman Trophy. So he had all these friends he played sports with, and many of them had started businesses. He went to them to seek their support. I've heard them say, I wrote a check and thought he would go away, but he didn't, and he wanted more involvement from them to get their friends involved. And so those initial board members brought in their friends, people from all over who wanted to do something, who recognized there was a problem. They didn't know what to do about it, but here was a solution that was working, and lives were changing. When Dr. Hutchison was looking for staff, background was working with third world poverty, and he found that working with nationals, training them and then developing them as leaders in their own country, their own culture, was stronger than just Americans going over there, staying for a couple of years and doing their thing and leaving. He said, but the people that live there, people who own that culture, they don't leave, and they have a lasting impact on that community. That's why we hire people from the community whenever possible.
What's kept me around for all these years at Uplift is just being around the kids that kids were impacting in our neighborhood, in my neighborhood. I always have lived in Southwest Denver, and that's where I work, and so I see my kiddos all the time. Seeing them become responsible young adults, you know, holding a job, raising families, just seeing them making a positive impact in our community, all the hard work, all the hours, the crazy events, everything worth it. I had a young man this past 4th of July, you know, I was barbecuing on my porch, and John came running up to me, Mr. David. I'm like, hey, what's up, John, you know, and I'm with my family, and he just came and visited and said, hey, I just want to let you know that you made a huge impact on my life, and you inspire me till this day. I'm like, man, you know, that's what it's about. My own daughters get to say, hey, who is that, Dad? I'm like, well, that's an old student I had. And they're like, wow, you really made an impact in them. I'm like, yeah, that's so modeling that even for my own kids, like, is awesome to see, you know, to always give back to the community and others around you.
We started with, I think there were 120 students at Manual High School, and we placed 88 in jobs that first summer. The job program, we hired professional full-time adult counselors to work with the high school students. But once we did a job training during the summer, we really didn't have access to them during most of the school year. It would be during the next summer or after school. We placed students in a number of companies around town. There was one airline company, there was another down in the tech center, and we had a student got angry at a supervisor and threw a truck dolly at him. And then another time we had a story that's popular where a student took a car that was given to him to drive to work and took off for California. We discovered we were getting them too late. The opportunity to spend more time with them during the school year came because of that in-school program. Started over at North High School with Remington Elementary School was the first elementary school. And so we had a couple of high school students and who would go over and work with the younger students, and those high school students would get graduation credit for this elective class, which was at the end of the day. High school students working with the younger students, we would train them in the classroom with a curriculum designed to help them teach concepts like leadership and integrity and honesty and things like that at elementary school level. The principal told me that he said it was just magical to see the impact that those high school students had over the little kids. So it was a fantastic concept, and we do that even to this day.
What got me involved in Colorado Uplift was I actually met one of the mentors through some friends that were in the program. And at the time, I was just going through a lot of my own struggles in life, I guess if you want to say. He was always hanging out with them outside of school and taking them to do things, and he'd always invite me, and I was never interested in those things until he invited me to a Nuggets game. And I thought, this is like the first time for me to ever get to do something like that. And so I went, and like we just started building a relationship from there. Growing up, I didn't have my dad really in the picture. It was just me and my mom. So I didn't really have a male role model that was telling me to do this or how to do that. When Jerry kind of came in, I saw what a whole family looked like. You know, one of the most impactful things that Jerry ever did for me was take me grocery shopping with his family. To see them interacting with each other and him playing with his kids and being there, teaching his kids how to play sports and things like that, it just had this lasting impact on me that I knew when I grew up, I wanted to be like that for my kids. When I first met Jerry Torres, the school that I was going to was about ready to kick me out because I wasn't attending school, failing every class. And because of the relationship that I had with Jerry Torres, I was able to talk to him when I was going through those things, and he was able to work it out with my mom to get me to move schools, actually, to be in the Colorado Uplift program over at West High School. From there, it was just a drastic change because now I had somebody holding me accountable. When I wasn't in class, I was getting text messages like, "Where are you?" He was constantly checking my grades to make sure that I was at least passing my classes. If I wasn't, he was taking me to go talk to my teachers to see what I could do to bring those grades up. I really owe it to Colorado Uplift for even graduating high school.
The guild came about, I think at this particular time we were doing prom dinners. We were using some of the board members' homes and setting it up as a restaurant, having the older students serve the younger students, and they would park the cars and dress up nice, and you'd have talks with the boys in advance about being honorable, that sort of thing. But that particular board member and his spouse decided that they wanted to expand that, and to do something a little different. So the next year they organized some of the ladies of guys on the board. We rented a comedy club, and then from there they just continued, and it just grew and it grew and it grew, and then they formally became the guild. Today they have over 125 members, and over the years they've bought vans, and they have some traditional things they do every year. I know the Christmas store, the fashion show.
They're the best, behind the scenes people that help cater to what Uplift does.
They have been very instrumental in helping us be more successful at reaching kids.
Come on, let's hear it. So I want to take a quick moment and just honor and appreciate a few people. And I'm going to start with one person in particular, our late founding man of just incredible, he was just an incredible person. The late founder of Colorado Uplift, Kent Hutchison, did amazing things. Yes. I had the privilege, being a student in the program and growing up in it, to be at his house and to just share many conversations with him, rub his head when he started losing his hair. Just so many things, but he was incredible. But he had a co-founder that was right alongside him, who is one of the most beautiful, wisest, brilliant, honorary, just incredibly impactful people that I know to this day. And it's just awesome to have her still riding along with us, to experience and witness the legacy that she and Kent started. And so would you do me a huge favor and help me honor the Reverend Dr. Bishop Diane Hutchison. Look at that. You may be seated, but Diane, I want you to stay standing for a quick second. And I want everybody to see what all the money we've been raising went to. No, I'm just, no. That's just a little bit of a token of appreciation for our love for you, Diane. So we love you to death. I do want to recognize a few other people. These folks have, have walked alongside us, and they've been responsible for, and some of those numbers were up, but for helping us over the 40 years reach over 110,000 students. Get in many schools. In fact, we're currently in 22 schools throughout Denver, Aurora, and Westminster. Impact several lives, and these guys are part of our founding board and continue with us to this day. Some of them are here, some of them aren't, but I want these guys to stand and be recognized. Dick Saunders, Bill Pauls, Don Seekey, Jerry Berglund, Walt Rakowicz, and a part of our development board, Dick Lewis, Norton Rainey. They helped found that part of our board as well. So let's hear it for these guys. And Butch Seal, I was holding him for last. Where's Butch at? Where's Butch? Butch, where are you? There he is. I needed to hold on for Butch because every time I see him, Butch is actually one of the founders. I mean, he was at the school with Kent, but every time I see Butch, I am amazed that out of all these board members, he still has his hair. Butch, I love you to death, man. Thank those guys. Hey, would you also help me to thank, we recognize these guys. They helped bake the cookies. They did a bunch of book reads, over 3,000 books, 960 hours of reading to students, some staff bonuses, some staff treats. I mean, that's why we have the weight that we have, because of these ladies. Let's see, holiday stores. I mean, that's just a few things, but if you're with the Guild or you ever were with the Guild, would you please stand? All of our Guild members, past and present. Some of them are here, some of them aren't. But those are just a few folks that we really want to just thank you, appreciate you. Because of you, we continue this journey. And so speaking of journey, now I'm going to have Mike come up on a video and take us through the journey of the 2000s. So let's focus on the screen.
Well, around 2000, staff members who had become an executive, he really missed working with the students, and he was very gifted at teaching. He wanted to have a more advanced class for some of the students who had shown greater leadership. He started the Advanced Leadership Program. Met after school, and then over the months we had a number of people that would take on that responsibility. It needed more, so they added the service component. They decided that join one of the board members who had been involved in a program that was building houses in Tijuana, Mexico. This became part of their annual programming to do a service project like building the homes down in Mexico. It's become something that's involved companies and employees from companies, and where students can get college credit even. Companies have even made pledges to hiring some of those students as interns.
I was part of the advanced leadership class. That trip just changed the perspective that I had. Before, I had this perception of we're poor, or the neighborhood I grew up with wasn't the best. Going down there and seeing the poverty that's just across the border from us really changed how I viewed what my parents were able to accomplish for me. And it also gave me a kind of a reality check, because that could have been me. And I came back with this sense of gratitude, and I remember telling my parents all the time, thank you after that. I was a little spoiled growing up. I am the youngest. I had this sense of entitlement that I feel like a lot of us have living here. I just appreciated everything so much more after that trip.
The roots of the Advanced Leadership Program really had to do with integrating what we were doing with students with the Tijuana program, and that just took off. So it has a lot of potential to grow even more. Okay, in 2004, the leadership at that time wanted to create some other opportunities for staff other than just teacher mentors. I was one of the older ones. And so they asked me if I would be interested in creating something for students who had graduated, because Uplift ended at graduation. And so this would be something to help them learn how to write checks, use checkbooks. And I had a number of students that had lived with me over the years, and I was teaching these kinds of things personally, because they lived in my home, to some of the students. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to advance that even further with more students. And so it didn't really become a full-featured program until we assigned some staff full-time to that. So that became our post-secondary program, where we had 2 full-time staff people assigned to working with each team to help us develop programming for students who had graduated. Sometimes those students went to college, sometimes they went to the military, sometimes they just wanted to work. So there was a lot of opportunity. We just didn't have the personnel before that in order to take full advantage of that. That's an area that I think we still can grow even further today, but it does require manpower, because there are a lot of graduates. Defining that and meeting those needs is a big step, and that's one of our goals, is to be a program that can reach the community in a greater manner. We had a staff person whose background was adventure. He had worked at a rafting company up in the mountains, and his degree was in outdoor and natural sciences, and he was doing these rafting trips and ski trips and all kinds of things with his students. And others would say, would you do this with my students? And so he was just doing it for everybody. So they said, why don't we just make this an official position and assign him this role, and that's what happened. He became the first director of our adventure program, and it was amazing because he had all these contacts all over the state with ski resorts and with all the places. It was a great success because we were able to do hiking programs, and I even had a group of people who got in a helicopter and they were able to fly over the Rockies. That is a key program in the Uplift stable of programs.
To have the opportunity to go snowboarding or water rafting, and it's not something that is common in my neighborhood. It was kind of fun to go up there to the mountains, and I also think just having an opportunity now to be a teacher, to have that adventure part. My nephew is an Uplift, and now he gets to experience the different things that I got to experience that he wouldn't have, like where they offer us to go to the college medical school at CU. He had the opportunity to cut the brain, and that's something that he talks about often. All these different adventures, it's an opportunity to be able to bring him and involve him in Uplift as well. So it makes me proud to start another generation of Uplift in my family.
2008, we met a gentleman who was living in Vail, but he was from Kenya. And he was working with students in the Vail area, and a board member met him and said, "What are you doing here working with students in Vail? You ought to be in the inner city working with, minority students." And he said, "I don't know anybody there." He said, "Well, let me give you this name, Kent Hutchinson. Contact those people at Colorado Uplift." Well, he came here, shadowed us for about a year, and then he said, "I want to start Uplift Kenya." And Dr. Hutchinson at the time got very excited and he saw this potential, Uplift USA, and to grow this thing. But Uplift Kenya never came about, but we got an opportunity to replicate the model in Florida. And the name Uplift was already trademarked there, so they settled on the name Elevate. They had the right leadership, they raised the funds, and we had some staff members that migrated from here and became part of their staff. Later it became known as Elevate USA, and they have their own headquarters located here in Denver, but they are all over the country at this time and growing. Who would have known that it would have become such a successful and great program? In 2016, some board members who had a heart for Aurora, Colorado, dedicated and earmarked funds specifically to expand into the Aurora Public Schools. We started with Hinckley High School, I do believe, and they found the right staff, and it really grew to be a very successful program, and I think we're at Aurora Central as well now, and Gateway as well. Today we have a full team over there. I hear there's discussion to also move into some other municipalities in the Denver metro area.
Is that cool or what? That's what Uplift is doing, our advanced leadership program, and exposing students to opportunities to serve and do something to give back. And in fact, speaking of all the houses that we've built and all that kind of stuff, I just want to honor the folks kind of responsible to helping us give our students that opportunity. I don't see them because all these bright lights in me, in my face. Steve and Renee James, where are you guys at? Oh, there they are. Can we give a hand for them? Thank you for allowing us to take kids out of not only the city but out of the country and earn college credit and give back. We really appreciate that, and we're continuing to do it. I think we're going again this year, actually. So if you want to help contribute to that and ride with us on that, support that, you have an opportunity to do that. And then our Elevate program. Can we hear for that real quick? Elevate. Colorado Uplift has had the opportunity to replicate itself in over 17 cities across the nation. In fact, 17 and counting, because I know they're in conversations right now with other cities getting ready to get some stuff going. So we're not done. I mean, Uplift is doing this nationally through Elevate, and maybe one day we might do it internationally. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there, But anyway, we really appreciate them. So if you are currently with the Elevate program, whether you're a board member, a staff member, or support, whatever, if you're helping out with the Elevate program, could you stand where you are right now? All the Elevate team, where you at? Where you at? Elevate, where's Kevin? Oh, how could I not miss his head? There it is, Bald Man. No, I mean, that's his name. He told us, Bald Man. Call me Bald Man. Old Man. Oh, not Bald Man, Old Man, I'm sorry. Hey, let's keep going. I want to bring to the stage, and I want you to give her some love because she's a little nervous, but I know she's going to kill it. But she's going to tell you her story and her journey through the Uplift program and what it's meant to her. So would you welcome to the stage the beautiful young Atiana? Up here.
Good evening. My name is Atiana Armijo, and I'm thankful to be joining you guys and being able to share my story with everyone. I haven't always had an easy life. I have 4 older siblings, but my household was always a place for many of my family members to stay when they were in need. So there were many people in and out often. For example, there were 12 people, including my parents and siblings, in my household at one point, along with visiting cousins, all living in our 2-bedroom house. Once everyone left, it became quiet, calm, and honestly a bit lonely. My family struggled to provide meals every day, so we regularly visited the food bank to get food to provide for our extra cousins. Frequently, I stayed with my grandparents who lived only a few blocks away. My grandparents took me and my siblings to school and picked us up, where we had dinner and stayed there till my parents got off of work. Some nights I would stay there with my grandparents because my house was too chaotic with my parents always fighting. With having this many people in my home, I always felt happy and I always felt busy because my world would never slow down. I remember when I was in elementary school, my parents remodeled our house, which was nice because then me and my sisters got our own rooms. Around that time, there was a lot of changes happening, and I began noticing that one of my older sisters became very distant, quiet, and sad. At the time, I thought it was part of growing up, but little did I know I was in for a rude awakening. When I was about 8 years old, I was woken up to my parents frantically screaming, but not like they were fighting, more like they were screaming in fear. I immediately ran out of my room to see my parents in my sister's room crying and yelling at her, and that's when I saw and understood that my sister was attempting to take her own life. My other sister soon came and covered my eyes, but all I could think of was if my sister was okay. I didn't understand why my sister wanted to die or even why she wanted to leave me. I wondered if I did something wrong. Sorry. I asked myself, was I not being there for her enough? Pure sadness flooded my emotions, and at that point my sister didn't even have to cover my eyes because they were drowning in tears. My parents soon yelled at us to go into my room and wait. We heard my mom screaming at my dad to tell my parents to come pick me and my sister up. My grandparents were there in a matter of minutes to get me and my sister shortly after my parents were out of the door and in the car going to take my sister to the hospital. After that, I didn't see my sister for over a week. The last thing I can remember was putting my hand on the car window, watching my sister filled with fear and confusion, with tears streaming down her face. This was so hard for me because I stayed with my grandparents for a while as my sister was in the hospital. I never felt comfortable talking about this to anyone until I met my Uplift teacher mentors, Robert and Joshua. They made me feel safe and like family. My teacher mentors soon helped me understand depression and mental illness. They explained it wasn't my fault and it was okay not to be okay, and soon I was given advice to help become closer with my siblings to hopefully prevent something like this from ever happening again. After building that trust with my Uplift mentors, I took the advice, and I've never had a better relationship with my siblings. We sit and talk all the time and share the things I've never felt comfortable expressing before. It feels so great to have such close siblings, even though we're not that close in age. It feels like we're all best friends who can never be separated no matter how much distance separates us. When I joined the program in 4th grade, I was a kid who kept to myself because I had a lot of anger issues. Uplift helped me emotionally process and become an open book in which I was comfortable to share in front of people, comfortable to play games with my classmates, and even make more friends outside of class. Uplift equipped me to begin my next phase in life, including to have the confidence to even do this speech. Uplift is so very impactful, giving kids a place to call home and a chance to have opportunities they never thought possible. Things like receiving scholarships or paintball or rafting, or even just talking about life over lunch. All these things, no matter how big or small it may seem, it carries a huge impact in someone's life. And I say that with full confidence from experience. Because of Uplift, I didn't follow in the footsteps of what my sister went through, but instead I now dream of a life I never knew was possible for me. I'm excited for what's to come next. I have a huge thanks to Uplift because I really wouldn't be here without my teacher mentors. You know who you are. And because of you, I feel confident in the journey to come. In May 2023, I graduate from North High School. Hopefully I graduate. I graduate from North High School. When thinking about what I want to do after graduation, I often reflect on my mentors and my brother. My brother is in the Navy and has traveled to so many places in which he found a happier lifestyle. I've been inspired by him as well as my teacher mentors because they have too traveled to places and found happiness in multiple places. They encourage and inspire me every day to follow my dreams and not let anyone hold me back, not even myself, from creating a happy life. I aspire to move to South Korea to go to college. In my mind, a happy life is a whole new place, and I have chosen Korea, where I know no one and where I'm pushed to learn new languages, to follow new rules, completely different from the ones here, and to understand new cultures. I'm planning on getting a visa as an exchange student. As an exchange student in Korea to study international business. Currently, every Saturday, I go to a place to study Korean. It's because of my Uplift mentors that have helped me build the confidence to get out of my comfort zone and pursue my interests that this dream can become a reality. Thank you again to Uplift for caring and loving me so deeply. Thank you to everyone else in this room for also caring about me and others like me who, without Uplift, would be lost, hurt, and headed towards destruction. Uplift means the world to me, and thank you guys so much for listening.
Isn't she the sweetest thing? And Atiana, you will graduate. Because if not, all your teacher mentors are going to jump on you. Because that's what we do as teacher mentors. We beat them up. If they don't do it, we say no. But I do appreciate her story because it reminds me a lot of myself. She said it's because of her teacher mentors that she's here and not a victim of her environment, if you will. Because that's what I would have been had I not met my mentor. He drove up to my house one day when I got invited to a party, and I had a choice to jump in the Uplift van or go to this party. I decided to go hang out with him, and when he dropped me back off at home, there were police cars everywhere, ambulance, all this and that. And when I was getting ready to go into the van, one of my friends came, and he was the one that invited me to this party. So when I pulled back up to my house, he comes running up, the same friend that invited me, and he was like, where you been? You should have been here. You missed it. And he starts talking about all the people that was shot and went to jail and all this and that. And I was like, I missed it. I should have been here. I was like, I'm so glad I was with Mike. And I got to say, just like Atiana, I'm standing here alive and I can say thriving in a healthy way. And I even have, instead of a generation of violence, I've been able to breed a generation of hope and inspiration in my own children. And so thank you for your support for allowing people like me and Atiana to be here and doing good stuff. And of course, I just have to once again say thank you to the man that literally saved my life, Mike Riley. I don't even know where he's at right now, but he's the guy on the video. But thank you, Mike, because he has been the father that I didn't have growing up. In fact, I was one of those students he talked about that lived with him. And in fact, I lived with him until I got married. In fact, I'm wondering if he met my wife before me and said, could you marry Vic and so he can get out my house? I don't know, but thank you, Mike, for being there for me throughout my life. And now I get to work with him and be colleagues. But I do remember riding in the van with him as a student, looking at him and all the stuff he was doing for so many people like me, thinking, I want to be like Mike. And that was before the Jordan video. But then today I'm driving in the van with students like, I'm Mike. But we're able to do that because of your support. So we would love to continue to do that for 40 more years. And we have some of the best staff and team and leadership. And speaking of leadership, I'm going to have the CEO of Colorado Uplift come up. And I really appreciate being his favorite staff member. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that. I'm sorry. I'm just one of the regular ones, but I'm his favorite. But anyway, he's doing a phenomenal job of leading us into the future, and I really appreciate his friendship, his leadership, and just his inspiration. So would you welcome the CEO of Colorado Uplift, the Reverend Dr. Bishop, Mr. Sanders. Thank you, Doc Sanders.
Well, good evening, everyone. You can say good evening back. Yeah, you can do that. That's okay. That's all right. Yes, it's truly an honor to be here as we celebrate 40 years of serving our community. Just tremendous. It really is. And I'm humbled by the opportunity just to be a part of an incredible mission. I'm also humbled and grateful for the opportunity I have to work and serve with an amazing staff. Many of you have had a chance to meet them in the past. You've met some of them at the tables that you're sitting at right now. And I want to just give a special thank you, though, to those staff members who helped make this possible. And in particular, Nicole Peters, I think she's back here somewhere, and Erica, I just saw her as well. If I can get you all just to at least wave or stand up, and let's give them a round of applause because they made this happen tonight. I also want to add some gratitude for all of you in this room and those that couldn't make it tonight who helped to make Colorado Uplift what it is today. I mean, you saw those incredible milestones that we've accomplished, and many of you were a part of making that happen. You know, Sir Isaac Newton said, if I've seen further, it is because I stand on the shoulders of giants. And right now, I feel like I'm standing a little tall right now, but it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, and many of you are in this room today. So I want to thank you for supporting me, and thank you for allowing me to see further as we continue to move forward in Colorado Uplift. The other thing I want to do is I want to recognize someone who's pretty special, speaking of giants, in my life, and that's my wife, Lourdes. She's right over here, if you could just wave. Thank you for all your years of support, for being here. I love you. And I'm glad my son's here too. Josiah. And at the risk of continuing these tears, I'm going to recognize one more person. She's already been recognized, but Miss Diane Hutchison, I mean, what a person. Vic's already said a lot of what I would want to say, but just want to thank you. I mean, you and Kent, you all had a hope for a future, and I'm so grateful and honored to be part of that. Now, speaking of hope, I sense that this room is full of hope. I think there's some folks in here that are probably thinking, I really hope Joe's going to say something interesting, and I hope it doesn't take too long to say it. I'm sure that some of my staff members, especially Nicole, she's probably thinking, you know, I really hope he sticks to the script and doesn't say anything too embarrassing. And then I know there are some of you that are saying, man, I really hope that this gets more entertaining and that your jokes get funnier as time goes on. Well, for all you hopefuls out there, let me go ahead and apologize in advance and say sorry. However, I will try not to take too long. But there are a few things I want to speak on tonight. You know, in fact, I got to admit that when my staff first came to me and they said, the theme is Futures in Bloom, and we want you to speak on that, I kind of had my heart sank a little bit, and I kind of panicked a little bit because I started thinking, plants and flowers, I don't know anything about that. What am I going to say about that, and how am I going to speak on that? So I immediately went out and I started doing some research, and the first thing I did is I learned how to spell botany. There is an A in botany, in case you don't know. Maybe I was the only one that didn't know that, but I did learn that. And then as I continued to look, I realized that there are some complicated things out there when you start looking at how plants and flowers grow. There's things like a Baxios, and there's a Aciculars, and I was starting to get a little discouraged because I said, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull this off. But then I came across an article by a lady named Sandra Bastine. And she said, well, when you look at planting, all you got to really do is focus on is three things. Their seeds, their roots, and their blooms. And I said, I can work with that. So tonight we're gonna take that simple outline and we're gonna talk about seeds, roots, and blooms. This first idea of a seed is not really just a seed, it's actually what I like to call seeds of hope. And I'll introduce this with a story. Because there's a story about a man who was in a garden, and he was with his son, and his son reluctantly went out to the garden with them because he said, you know, well, Dad, I really want to go and play with my friends in the neighborhood. And the dad's like, no, you need to come with me, and we need to plant this garden. And so the boy's out there with his father, and he's hoping, though, they can get done with this rather quickly. You know, his hope is that they'll just be able to take the seeds and they'll be able to just scatter them out, and he'll be done with it really quick. They can just kind of shake the seeds out there, and then they'll be able to go on and he can go play with his friends. But instead, what he noticed is that his dad would go and he would take each seed and he'd look at each seed and he'd stare at this seed for a while. And then he'd smile a little bit. And sometimes as he pulled out a seed, he'd actually laugh. And other times he would just break out in a cheer. And so the little boy, he's looking and he's thinking, this is going to take us forever to get through all these seeds. And he's like, Dad, what are you doing? What's taking you so long? Can't we hurry this up? Why are you staring at the seeds? And the father looks at his son and he says, I'm not staring at the seeds. I'm looking at the flower. Because what the father realizes is that the seed that we plant today will turn into flowers tomorrow. And it is that compels us to actually go through the work to plant the seeds. So of course, the boy picks up the seed too. He smiles and he's like, Dad, let's plant this garden. Because he's seeing flowers. That reminds me a lot of what we do at Colorado Uplift. We see the flowers in our students. At Uplift, we believe that each student has infinite value. We see them for who they are, for what they can be, and we hold them to that standard. You know, I was really touched the other day, and I know a lot of you've heard a little bit about the interactions of our teacher mentors with our students. And there was a student the other day, and she was talking about her teacher mentor, and she said, like you've heard multiple times, that her teacher mentor had saved her life. And she's in tears talking about this. But one of the first things she said after she talked about how her teacher mentor had saved her life is that she noticed me. She noticed me. There is such power in noticing people. Think about your day. How many people in your day do you notice? How many people in your day do you not notice? At Uplift, we strive to notice. And not just notice them, there's certain things we notice about them. Because you see, to notice somebody, that's a good thing. You can notice someone and it can have an impact on their lives. But when you notice certain things about their person, it's what you notice about them that actually makes a difference. Are we looking at folks with the external things that we typically see that's oftentimes full of misconceptions and prejudgments? Are we seeing something deeper, more compelling about their humanity and who they are? We need to see the flower in the seed. Now, I want to pause for a second, because I know you all have had a chance at your tables to see some of our students and our alumni, but I want you to notice them. And let's just take a moment. If we could get our students and our alumni, please stand so you can be noticed. And I want you to look at them as though they're flowers. Because they really are. Students and alumni, we see you. We notice you. Now, I'm going to derail a little bit from the script. I'm sorry, Nicole. I just can't help myself, because I want to help some of you out here tonight, especially you husbands. I can relate to this a little bit. So this thing of noticing, it works with our students, and it works there, but you know what? It can also work with your wives or your significant others. So I'm going to help you out here for just a moment. What I want you to do is I want you, when I say go, I simply want you to look at your wife or your significant other and smile. And I'm going to do the work for you. You ain't got to say anything. And significant others and spouses, I want to tell you what they're thinking when they're smiling at you. They're saying, honey, you are so beautiful. So, ready? Go. All right. Yeah, so now the spouse, now the wife should be a little bit excited about that. And hopefully, yeah, you could clap on that. You could clap on that. And I just need to take a moment, because I told her I loved her earlier, but I want to tell you, honey, you are so beautiful as well. And for all of you out here, you say, well, you kind of excluded me in this. Well, I'll let you all can maybe do a homework assignment. If you just take your phone, you can flip it around, you can see a mirror, and you can just look at yourself, and you can do the same thing there, right? Okay? So we don't want to leave anybody out. Don't want to leave anybody out. But I think you get the point. When it comes to sowing seeds of hope, it really is about what we notice in seeing the beauty and seeing the flower in the seed. And one thing I'll say on this too before I go, and because Vic brought this up, is just the idea that when we see that in our students, we also help them shape how they see themselves and how the world shows up for them. because they might have conditions and struggles and challenges that they go through. But one of the things I know Ross and I in our advanced leadership class, we help our students understand that you got to live beyond the conditional constraints. You can't allow things to define you. You have to define things that you can define yourself despite the struggles, despite your circumstances. So really, even these challenging conditions, you can still find hope. In fact, these conditions just provide a place and a space for hope to be planted. So moving on now to the next topic is roots of strength. Roots of strength. Now, this here is a bamboo a tree, or it's not really, here's what I learned, by the way. You know, bamboos aren't really classified as trees, they're actually grass. But there's a debate going out there, you know, and I don't want to get into that debate, but there's some folks out there that say the consistency of it is actually grass. But either way, these bamboo have amazing roots. In fact, it takes about 3 years to grow the roots of a bamboo, grass or tree, whatever you want to call it, before you start to see anything on the surface. But once you start to see something on the surface, it takes a little bit of time, but by that 5-year period of time, in less than 5 weeks, you can see a bamboo grow 90 feet. But what we find is that it takes a long time for these roots to grow. But once it breaks through and these roots are there, it grows twice as fast as most other trees. It's because it has these roots. And when we look at a bamboo, there's a few things we know that we could take from this, and it's the fact that growth is happening beneath the surface, even though you can't see it. We also can see that the importance of having a strong foundation, a strong support system, because that's what roots provide. And then the final thing we see is it takes a long time sometimes to get a person, or in this case, bamboo, ready for growth. Now, I see some teacher mentors nod your head out there because you kind of can draw the parallels to what you do every day. You see that. Another example that I like to highlight, though, that emphasizes this idea of strong roots and the strengthened roots, it's a lady. This woman, name is Polly Mason. Polly Mason was born as a slave. She's born as a slave in Louisiana. They're in central Louisiana. And she had to overcome a lot in her life. And eventually, she got to the point where her and her husband were actually able to own their own property. They actually had 21 acres. They had some farmland. On the picture you saw there was a house behind her, and it was their home that they owned. So she went from being owned and working on a plantation to owning her own farm and own home. Yes. And something else you may have noticed that was pretty impressive about Polly Mason is that she lived to be 118 years old before dying in 1974. Yeah. Now, Polly Mason, she had several children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. And she represents a direct source of strength for me, as well as my family. For you see, Polly Mason is my great-great-grandmother. And she's affectionately known as Grandma Polly, is what we call her in the family. And although I got a chance to meet her when I was young, and I didn't get a chance to really grow up with her. She passed before I was able to really have that kind of interaction. I did get a chance to learn a lot about her and ask questions about her, and even recently some conversations, and I learned a lot about who she was and what she represented. And my grandmother told me about how she was a strong a lady and all the things that she did and how smart she was and how hardworking she was. And my dad talked about how she was fiercely committed to training up children in the next generation to make sure that they knew how to work, right? And know how to provide for their families. And as I kept talking to folks, a few things that just kind of stuck with me that I think are relevant about Grandma Polly. One of the things that she had said in the past is she said when she thought about her life, the challenge she had, she goes, you know what? I was really up against it. And although she was up against it, Grandma Polly kept on pushing. Grit, perseverance, determination were on full display in Grandma Polly's life. She'd also say that there's a piece of good in everybody. And although there were times in her life she had been mistreated, she still found a way to rise above retaliating or harboring bitter feelings against her offenders, teaching many of our family a lesson on compassion and caring for people, as well as a hard-learned lesson on how to forgive. The other thing we learned from Grandma Polly, and we knew that she was really a hard worker, but she said, if something is worth doing, it's worth doing right. And she was a stickler for being on time. A few years before Grandma Polly passed, they came from LSU, Louisiana State University. A few of the researchers came to actually do an interview with her. And they sat down and they talked to her, and they were asking her all these questions. And I had a chance actually to go back and listen to this. And, a couple things struck me. One, her laughter. I mean, just hearing her laugh. I mean, if you hear, somebody who's, at that time, maybe 115 years old, laugh, I mean, it does something for you. And it was good for my soul, just the pure joy in her laughter. But the other thing that stuck out about Grandma Polly for me was her enduring faith. You see, because they started asking her about all these questions that she had talked about before in previous interviews. And at that point in time, she could really no longer recall a lot. She can talk about some of the details of the events. But what she was able to do, and what she was very clear on, was that her faith and trust in God got her through life, and it gave her life. For me, this was a powerful lesson about the testament of faith. Reminding me that there's a lot of things that I might forget and I can't forget in life, but that I should never lose sight of the faith that I have in me. So when you think about Grandma Polly, you might say, well, Joe, why are you talking about your grandmother? What is that relevant? How is that related to us being here tonight and related to Uplift? Well, first of all, in a very real way, if it wasn't for Grandma Polly, I wouldn't be here. So I don't want you to know who you have to thank or blame. The other thing, for those of you who know me and are trying to get to know me, knowing a little bit about where I come from, this might give you a little insight on why I am the way I am. Again, Grandma Polly, you could thank her or blame her for that. And as I talk about these qualities, the other thing I hope you were able to see is that the very same qualities, as we try to lay that character foundation in our students that we talk about, I believe Grandma Polly was a very good example of those. And of course, just like Grandma Polly laid that foundation of character for our family, our Uplift mentors are doing that day in and day out, providing a firm foundation and a solid ground for our students to stand on. And a final thing is we oftentimes talk about at Uplift breaking the generational cycles of poverty. And I always say when it comes to breaking a cycle, to break an old cycle, you got to create a new cycle. So this is just a way for me to publicly connect that, but also publicly thank Grandma Polly for starting a new cycle. So my final point, for those of you who are hoping I would be quick, hopefully this is kind of getting there a little bit. But it's the idea of blooms of impact. Blooms of impact. So when we think about blooms, oftentimes we do focus on the flower or the plant. But really, the purpose of a bloom and the thing we need to take from the bloom is that when a plant or a tree or whatever gets to that place where it's blooming, it is actually more so about the impact that it's having on the environment around it. It's ultimately about the service it renders to the world. So whether it's a vegetable or fruit that can be eaten, or a flower that can be seen and add beauty or smell, it's about what it renders to the world. Now, our students have bloomed and they've rendered service to the world. And in fact, we have data, thanks to Elevate, that tell us that our students are far more likely to go out and contribute to their community than their peers are. And of course, you've seen incredible examples of where our students have bloomed. Bullet, I told you this personally, but man, we got to give you another round of applause. Thank you for blooming. And we have several examples on our staff. I'm looking around at some of our staff members who were former students and who are now blooming, rendering service to their community. But there's more blooms in store. Colorado Uplift has impacted, as you heard, over 100,000 youth for the past 40 years. Yes. And while that provides undeniable evidence of our impact, the future offers unprecedented opportunity. An opportunity to expand our service in the service that we render to this world. As I look in the future and I think about Uplift, we can see a future where we will reach over 688,000 students and families over the course of the next 40 years. Yeah, you can clap because it's going to happen. And to this end, we have plans on the way to actually create a community campus. And this community campus is going to serve to help bolster our efforts as we expand in schools across Colorado, while also providing an epicenter that serves as kind of a wraparound service for a local community. We hope that you will join us in creating this future. Because the future that we hope for cannot and will not be in full bloom without each and every one of you being a part of it. You know, Martin Luther King says that we're tied together as a single garment of destiny. So our futures are your futures. Your futures are our futures. And now I realize that as we talk about 40 years and 40 years plus, that all of us just may not actually be here on earth to see that come to fruition. I understand that. But there's room in that future for all of our legacies. We must be willing to plant flowers that we may never smell. Because our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and our great-great-grandchildren may just have the opportunity to benefit from those flowers. So can you imagine, as part of your legacy or a part of this future, where we have cancer, a cure for cancer, because one of our Uplift students, because of their research and their contributions? Can you see how we can have a quality of our education in this nation restored, and perhaps the national economy even bolstered, because Uplift students have bloomed into prominent administrative and business positions? Or maybe you can see an occasion where your family is getting a discount on a service call because you need an HVAC repair. And the technician that showed up is that technician that you helped sponsor to go to trade school. Can you imagine your grandchild receiving a world-class education at a prestigious university where one of our Uplift students has bloomed and become the president? Or perhaps you see a future where your great-great-granddaughter stops and smells a flower on our Uplift campus. Now, I know it's an awesome responsibility to think about, the fact that what we do today, dare I say, what we do tonight will have ripple effects for generations to come. But I'll tell you, we all need to ask ourselves at least a few questions. What services will our lives render to the world? What legacy will you leave? And finally, just consider, what flowers will our great-great-grandchildren see and smell? Thank you.
You know, when me and some of the staff are getting together and talking about Doc Sam behind his back, I mean, not that way, but when we're getting together and talking about how much we appreciate him and his vision and his leadership, one thing we do appreciate is your heart, and for sharing your heart with us, sharing your family with us, sharing your life with us. Lourdes, thank you for sharing Doc Sam with us and your family and your life with us. And thank you, Grandma Polly, for that stickler to be on time stuff. I thought it was the military, but Grandma Polly, thank you. No, he's a stickler for that. No. When you were telling us to look at our significant others, my younger son looked at my older son and smiled, and my older son said, "Stop looking at me." So thank you for starting fights in my home. Hey, we've got one more video. It's a short one. It's probably one of the shortest, 4 or 5 minutes. And then we're going to tell you what to do with these. So don't leave, but check out this video.
I asked the students in my class at Manual High School, why Uplift? Why was Uplift special to them? One of the students said that you love us. And all the other students agreed. And another student said, I believe you would take a bullet for us. And you think about who would take a bullet for you. Gangs would take a bullet for each other. Family members would for one another. But how many strangers that you don't know? And a lot of these kids don't have dad at home and all that kind of thing. Somebody that would love you or care for you that much to where they would give up their own life for you is rare. They just love because of who they are. They're people, they're human beings, and we want to give them dignity and show them that there's another way to live and there are better decisions to be made.
Well, somebody that's been with Uplift for 40 years, I want to say thank you. Thank you for supporting a program that's been life-changing. I met my mentors at 14 and I continue to do life with them. They were at my wedding, they were at my graduation. I don't want to get emotional. But I think, I think just thanking them for creating a program. Kent and Diane, I think they had a vision. It's bigger than they could have ever imagined, and it's a blessing to be here, to be a person that lived out the whole mission, to be a alumni of Uplift, to sit here and say that it works.
What I think makes Uplift unique and special in our city is just the relationship piece of Uplift. That's the secret sauce.
You can't help but wonder, how many more people would have failed in life without Colorado Uplift. I know I would have, but because of those donors, sacrificing money, sacrificing their time, sacrificing their effort, like they were able to make a change in somebody's life. And I would hope to think that I'm proof of that.
What makes Uplift what Uplift is love for specifically our student.
There's a lot of work to be done still, because I talk to administrators all the time. Well, how come Uplift's not in my school? Uplift's not here. I'll run into kids where they'll see us taking our kids on trips and they're wondering how come Uplift's not at our school, So that indicates to me like there's a need.
I had a student in my class at Manual High School who was a gang member. He was a Crip. I even had some students run over to the classroom to get him because some other gangs were going to shoot up his house where his grandma was there. I didn't give him a great grade, but he took the class again the next semester. And I said, why are you taking this class again? I didn't give you that grade. He told me, it's because of my little cousin over at the elementary school. I don't want him to grow up like me. I don't want him to grow up like me. And he had an opportunity to say something and to make sure that didn't happen. That's why he was in my class.
My hope would be that other people would hear our message and they would want to tag along and partner with us to see our city changed by changing it to younger generation, because those are our future leaders. Those are our future families. Whoever wins this generation, wins this culture, is going to win the future.
Good evening. That's a tough act to follow. Thank you all for being here tonight. As Vic warned you, we are here to ask for your money. My name is Nicole Peters. I'm the development director here at Uplift, and I've had the pleasure of serving for about 4 years. As I look out, there's a lot of you here in the audience who have helped support us for those 4 years. There's also some of you who've been supporting us since the very beginning. So we don't exist without the donors in this room, and so it's my privilege to stand here and thank you first and foremost, and to ask that you would invest in us. This is a mission that is so dear to so many of your hearts. Just looking out, I know that's why you're here. We wanted to celebrate, but we want to give you a chance to invest. So that's why we're here. You have these paddles that were given to you. They have numbers on them. So what we're going to do is, spotters, if you guys are out there, if you can come and get into your places. We have some of our gorgeous students, too, who are going to give you a little flower when you donate, when you raise that paddle up. So we're going to give you 4 opportunities to give this evening. We're going to start high and work our way down. We want to raise a lot of money so that we can continue to do what we've been doing for the past 40 years in impacting these students' lives. So we're going to start at $10,000. We're going to then go to 5, then we're going to go to 1, and then we're going to drop to $100. Every dollar really matters in our mission. Brian's going to tell you a little bit more about that, but every dollar really, really matters. And so as we give you that opportunity, we're going to pause. If you can make sure you connect eyes with your spotter to make sure they're going to write your paddle number down so that we can make sure to follow up with you, and thank you. So we're going to give you those opportunities. Some of you all give annual gifts, and so if you want to give your annual gift tonight, we would love that. We would love if you want to pledge, if you want to raise your paddle, We're going to have you swing by checkout on the way out. So if you want to give tonight, we want you to. So however we can make that easy, but paddle raises are fun, and so we're excited to get started. So, Brian.
Yeah, as Nicole said, my name's Brian Stammer. I've been on staff almost 15 years now, and hey, I'll take some class for that. And part of my role at Uplift is to make sure that what we get and what we bring in is stewarded well, and that you as donors have information on how to best leverage your dollars. So I'm going to share a couple things, and then I'm going to get out of the way and raise some paddles. So a couple things to note. You saw it on the stage or on the screen earlier. 90% of students in the Uplift program graduate. Compared to $2 million is what it costs a high school dropout in the state of Colorado. So just from a straight investment perspective, we can't make a better investment than that. A couple other things to note. Uplift qualifies for what's called the Colorado Child Care Tax Credit. And I know it's dangerous to have an accountant up on stage sharing information, but what that means is you can give and get up to 70% back on your taxes. You get a 50% state tax credit, and it really helps leverage dollars further and helps us work with more students. So I'm as passionate as I've ever been to be on staff with Uplift, and I hope we can partner together tonight. So the first level, I'm going to give some information on what makes these dollars relevant so you can kind of envision what your dollars are going to. So the first level is $10,000. Uplift has 25 12-passenger vans that you probably have driven by in Denver and didn't even realize that it was an Uplift van. And what those are good for, they transport students to games and to Starbucks. And you heard a little bit about our Little Lift program. We take high school students down to the elementary school. So $10,000 scholarships a van for a whole year and really helps us do what our program is. So let's start the paddle raise. $10,000. This isn't an auction, but is there anybody want to kick us off? I see one. I see two, three, four. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Dick Saunders. Don Seeke, thank you. Dick Lewis, thank you.
So if you can hold those paddles up, hold them up nice and high until your spotters see you so we can write down your number and make sure we can get you checked out. So spotters, if you guys can just give me a wave once we've got all these numbers. Thank you so much for giving. Raise those numbers nice and high until someone's seen you. Dick Saunders looks pretty good in that lay. All right, are we good? Spotters, you guys, we think we got everyone, $10,000. Thank you so much. We're gonna go to our next level. We are gonna go to $5,000. You guys have heard about how we bond with students. It's not just in the classroom. We really do a lot after school. That's when those phone calls happen with that hard news. It's when they get into those conversations about their families or where they want to go to college. And so if you raise your paddle for $5,000 tonight, you're going to be able to scholarship a staff student after-school bonding experience for the entire year. So our staff really bond with these kids. That's the impact that we have, really, is this relationship that you've heard about tonight. So that's what your $5,000 can do, which is incredible. So if you'd like to hold your paddle nice and high, we're going to start $5,000. Don't be shy. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Make sure you look around and that your spotter sees you. There's some in the back, some over here. Thank you guys so much. And as our students come around with lays, you are welcome to wear those, or you can take them home to your grandkids. But we're just grateful to have you guys here. So hold those nice and high. Spotters, make sure you guys get all these numbers.
Yeah, one up
Walk
here.
around if you need to. Awesome.
One in the middle. Just want to make sure everybody has an opportunity. I also just realized I'm hiding behind the the podium because I'm nervous. So, all right, third level. $1,000 a kid is what it costs us to serve students. Now, you heard this a little bit. I thought about doing a bullet said, let's go raise some money to get to Montbello. We'll get there eventually. But for $1,000 a kid, I know that there are hundreds of kids on our waiting lists. We have schools with students that know about Uplift that want to be a part of our program, and we're not able to get to them yet. So for $1,000 a kid, we can start to make that progress and start to reach those students. So $1,000 a kid, great investment, especially when you factor in that child care tax credit I mentioned. So $1,000 a kid, let's raise the paddles up. Lots of them. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
I hope we got to get more leis to give out too, because we got that many paddles. Keep them up. Keep them up.
Thank you so much. I think, $1,000 for an entire year, I think it's a pretty good bang for your buck. I think, our kiddos get in-school class, they get after school, they get summers. So during the summer, we don't go away at Abraham's here. Summers are intense. They're on overnight camping trips. They're doing all kinds of stuff. You guys saw our adventure program and the impact that has. But for $1,000 to scholarship a kid for an entire year, I don't know of any other organizations that are doing the work we're doing at that cost per student. So thank you. Know that you're scholarshiping students like Ati, like Bullet, other kids that are in the room tonight, young adults. So thank you so much for giving. We've got one more level. This is $100. You guys saw the adventure program. This is one of the ways that we get our students. The motto is growth through challenge. So we get them to the mountains. We take them on those overnight, I don't, but someone takes them on those overnight backpacking trips. They get them skiing, and when our kids show up to college and people are saying like, oh yeah, Ski Vail, and they're like, oh yeah, me too. I've done that, I've been there. So for $100, you can provide our students with those experiences. That's really where they open up. It's where they get to experience things that they've never experienced before. It levels kind of the playing field when you get to college and you get to chat about skiing Vail or Copper or backpacking, through the Rockies. So for $100, you can provide adventure activities for students. And $100, let's go. I know inflation, but $100. I think we've got that. So if you want to donate $100, get our kids up on the ski slopes, raise those nice and high. Spotters, if you guys can walk around, this is going to be a big one. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys so much. Let's raise those paddles nice and high. Keep them up. I know our arms are getting tired. We're almost finished. $100. It's a good way to spend $100. We really appreciate all of you who give. We're going to keep these up as your spotters are viewing you. Just some quick instructions. If you can swing by, you don't have to leave, but when you are leaving, if you can swing by registration where you checked in and just go ahead and check out. We've got easy credit card swipers. We would love to call you and thank you. And I will also be calling you if I don't see you at checkout to just make sure we get that cash. So if you want to swing by and check out, that'd be awesome. Anything I missed?
That would be great. So we'll keep them up for just a minute. And just from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for being here. Thank you for investing and partnering with Uplift. We got a big future and a big vision in front of us, and we're grateful all of you are a part of it. So thank you. Yeah, we could clap. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut us off. A few more. Spotters. All right. Even if your number wasn't written down, you can still check out. So that's all we got. So thank you so much. Have a great night, and drive safe.